After hours, Maya had worked under Daniel for 2 years. He was the kind of boss who was firm but fair, always professional. Yet his rare smiles lingered in her mind longer than they should have. It was a late evening at the office. Everyone else had gone home, but Maya stayed behind to finish a project that had Daniel on edge for weeks. When she walked into his office to drop off the final report, he looked up, surprised. "You finished it?" he asked, rising from his chair. She nodded, smiling shyly. "All done. Just wanted to make sure you had it tonight." Daniel stepped around his desk, close enough that she could feel the tension in the room shift. He took the file but didn't open it. "You always go above and beyond," he said, his voice low. "And it's not just the work. I notice you, Maya." Her breath caught. "I've tried to keep it professional," he continued. "But every time you walk into a room, it's like the rest of the world fades out." Maya's heart pounded. Without thinking, she closed the distance and wrapped her arms around him. He held her tightly, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, he pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "If I kiss you," he whispered, "there's no going back." "Then don't stop," she whispered back. Their lips met in a soft, lingering kiss, one filled with unspoken feelings and the sweet risk of something new. "Let me know if you'd like a spicier version, a longer scene, or characters with specific backgrounds." After hours, the office was unusually quiet that evening. Fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, casting a pale glow on empty desks. Outside, the city lights blinked in the distance. But inside, the only sound was the gentle tap of Maya's keyboard. She was the last one there except for him. Daniel, her boss, her impossible crush, her unreadable, magnetic, frustrating boss. For 2 years, they danced around the line between professionalism and something deeper. There were glances that lingered too long, touches that felt accidental but meant more, and conversations that always hovered just below personal. But neither of them ever crossed the line. Until tonight. Maya straightened the final report and took a steadying breath. She walked to his office, heels clicking softly against the polished floor. His door was cracked open, and he was still at his desk. Sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He looked tired, but when he saw her, his eyes lit up in that quiet way they always did. "I finished the report," she said, stepping in. He stood and took the file from her hands, their fingers brushing. That simple contact made something flutter in her chest. "You didn't have to stay so late," he said, voice low. "I wanted to," she replied. "I knew it mattered to you." Daniel looked at her for a long moment, the silence stretching. Then he set the file down and stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the subtle spice of his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. "Maya," his voice was rough with hesitation, and something else, desire maybe. "You've been on my mind for a long time." Her heart thundered in her chest. She swallowed. "Then why haven't you said anything?" "Because I'm your boss," he said. "Because I didn't want to risk losing you. But every time you walk into my office, I forget the rules." She didn't speak, she couldn't. Instead, she stepped into him, resting her hands gently on his chest. He froze, then slowly wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into a tight embrace. It wasn't a polite hug. It was warm, protective, full of emotion held back for far too long. She felt the weight of all the unspoken things in his arms: respect, admiration, longing. He pulled back slightly, eyes searching hers. "If I kiss you," he whispered, "it changes everything." Maya looked up at him, her voice soft but sure. "Then change everything." Daniel cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing her skin with a tenderness that made her knees weak. Then he kissed her slow at first, as if memorizing her. His lips were warm, and the kiss deepened with every heartbeat. It wasn't rushed. It was filled with everything they hadn't said. Everything they'd felt, building for months. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "We'll figure it out," Maya said, smiling. And in that quiet office, long after hours, something new began, something that didn't care about rules, only about the way they made each other feel. After hours, extended scene. The city outside pulsed with lights, but inside Daniel's office, time seemed to slow. The quiet hum of the building's ventilation was the only sound as Maya stood before him, her chest rising and falling gently, her hands slightly trembling at her sides. Not with fear, but anticipation. Daniel was watching her closely, like she was something fragile and vital. His tie hung loose around his neck, the top 2 buttons of his shirt undone, revealing a glimpse of collarbone and the tension he carried in his body. "I've tried to ignore this," he said, his voice gravel-soft. "But every day you make that harder." Maya's throat tightened. Her voice came out in a whisper. "Then stop trying." His jaw clenched slightly, as if holding back something, restraint maybe. Desire, definitely. Slowly. Carefully, he stepped closer, closing the space between them inch by inch. When he reached out and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear, his fingers lingered, tracing the curve of her cheek with reverence. Her skin buzzed where he touched her, a soft, aching electricity. "You're not just someone I work with, Maya," he murmured. "You're the one I look for in every meeting. The reason I linger in doorways. The reason I smile when I shouldn't." Her breath hitched. She couldn't respond, not with words, so instead, she moved closer, placing her hands lightly on his chest. She felt his heart beating fast like hers. His hands slid around her waist slowly, then pulled her to him in a gentle, enveloping hug. The hug said everything their mouths hadn't. "I've wanted this. I've needed this. I've missed you. Even when you were right in front of me." Maya pressed her cheek against his shoulder, feeling safe and seen. He held her tightly, one hand resting at the small of her back, the other gently brushing up her spine. Then he pulled back just enough to look at her. His eyes searched hers, as if asking silently for permission. She gave it in the way her lips parted, in the way she tilted her face toward his, and in the soft, trembling yes that left her lips. Daniel leaned in, slowly, like the moment deserved respect. His lips brushed, hers with caution at first, then confidence. The kiss deepened, their bodies melting into one another like pieces that had been waiting to fit. His hand cupped the back of her head, fingers threading into her hair as he pulled her closer. Her fingers gripped his shirt, clinging to him like the ground beneath. Her feet had fallen away. There was no urgency, just expiration. His mouth moved against hers with patient hunger, as if he wanted to memorize every curve, every sigh she gave. When they finally pulled away, foreheads touching, breaths mingling, there was a pause where the world felt utterly still, disarming smiles that reached his eyes. And in that soft silence, in that quiet office filled with late-night shadows and long-held feelings, they both understood something. This wasn't forbiddance. After Hours, Part 2, more detail, deeper emotion. Daniel's office had always felt like a place of order, of power-polished wood, glass, and crisp authority. But tonight, under the dim amber glow of the desk lamp, it felt different. Warmer, private, almost intimate. Maya stood in the center of it, wrapped in the lingering echo of their kiss, her heart thudding in her chest like it was trying to break free. She could still feel the shape of his mouth on hers, the way his lips moved with a precision that wasn't practiced. It was felt, deeply and honestly. Daniel's hand slid slowly down from her back to her waist, and rested there, his thumb tracing slow, deliberate circles over the fabric of her blouse. His other hand remained at her jaw, cradling it gently, his thumb brushing the corner of her lips as though trying to memorize their softness. "Maya," he said, her name a breath against her skin. "If you want me to stop." "I don't," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please don't." That was all he needed. His lips met hers again, this time deeper, firmer. Her body arched into his, arms winding around his shoulders as she let herself melt. The kiss wasn't rushed, but it held a new kind of urgency, a months-long longing uncoiling slowly, deliciously, between them. His hands explored her carefully, reverently down her back, along the curve of her waist, to her hips. Each touch sent little pulses of heat through her. She responded instinctively, her fingers slipping into his hair, pulling him closer, anchoring herself to the only thing that felt real in that moment. The kiss broke again, but their bodies stayed close, their foreheads pressed together. Daniel's breath was warm against her skin as he whispered, "You don't know how long I've thought about this. About you. Every day. I've thought about you too," she said, eyes fluttering open. "I kept telling myself not to, that it wasn't right. Does this feel wrong?" he asked, his thumb brushing her cheek. "No," she said, shaking her head slightly. "It feels like the only thing that's ever been right." He kissed her again, slower this time, and then moved to her jaw, trailing his lips just below her ear. She gasped softly at the contact, her fingers tightening on his shoulders. His kisses moved down her neck, soft and deliberate, and her skin lit up under every touch. They backed up slowly, Daniel guiding her gently until the back of her thighs touched the edge of his desk. He paused, looking into her eyes for any sign of doubt. But all Maya gave him was a look of quiet longing, vulnerable, open, real. He reached up to cup her face again, searching her expression. "If this is the only moment we ever get, I want to remember every second of it." "Then don't be careful," she whispered, voice shaking with anticipation. "Just be with me." Their lips met again, hotter, deeper, as he lifted her effortlessly onto the edge of his desk, her legs wrapped around him without thought, bodies pressing together in a shared hunger that had waited far too long. The air between them grew warmer, heavier, filled with the sound of shared breath, quiet moans, and the soft rustle of fabric. Clothes didn't come off just yet. Not fully, but fingers started to explore loosening buttons, pushing aside fabric, discovering skin with growing urgency and reverence. The lines of boss and employee blurred, melted, and faded away entirely. In this moment, they were just two people who had waited too long to touch, too long to feel, two souls finally crashing into each other, without hesitation, without apology.